Let's just wait a couple minutes for other people to join.
Okay, how many did we have registered for today?
16, and we currently have 11. Well,
okay.
Technically no,
Not including us,
8.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, as we wait for people to filter in, we don't have a formal presentation the way that we've had for the other meetings. Today's just going to be a sort of informal update about where we are in the process and just checking in on a couple of things that some of you have been working on.
I will say, I think I see a couple of new people.
Cool.
Just to make sure that we give a comprehensive update.
Is Greg Grant on the call?
He will be any second, I think. Yeah. Okay, Greg is on.
Do you, Anthony and Dana, do you follow the Facebook threads that happen at all in our community around this project? They've been pretty interesting.
No, I have not looked at one.
Okay.
In a while.
Susan and I have been pretty active in responding.
Oh yeah.
To the opposition and proposition. What's the opposite of opposition? Proposition?
Proponents, yeah.
Proponents. The opponents and proponents. And it's been a lively discussion. I think it's finally, I shouldn't say finally, I think it's becoming understood that this is a demonstration, because some of the language is like, oh, we're going to do this and there's no turning back, or we're going to do this and you know, it's not good for the community. And I know for myself, I just keep reiterating this is a demonstration and data is going to be collected. Then we'll make the decision to implement it permanently or not. Nice. Hopefully that's had a little bit of just influence that this is a demonstration.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, there's definitely merit to emphasizing that, because I think people have probably seen a lot of, and they're very familiar with the ATP project. And I think that's just what comes to mind. And so we just need to keep emphasizing that this is the demonstration of that. So I guess just a little intro, if anybody on is new, so basically we don't have a presentation for today's meeting, but if you go to the project webpage, there are video recordings from the previous CAC meetings. If you just want to, I don't know, play it while you're working or something to get caught up, we also have the presentations from previous meetings on the webpage as well. So that's just a little bit of a note. But Tony, I guess, did you want to start with with the update?
Yeah, sure. You know, just general. I'm going to share my screen here so that people can see where we're at.
Okay.
In terms of the our spreadsheet here, we submitted our permit drawings again. I think this is our third submittal to Caltrans last week, and we're working out different elements of the permit drawings with them. So no major update there except to say that it's moving along and the review process is being conducted at a pretty fast pace considering we're working with a state agency. So we don't have any good indication about the timing yet. So that's disappointing for us because we want to be able to plan and have a date in mind and be able to convey that to you all. We do not have that yet. So at this point, what we're looking at is, still end of August, beginning of September. We realize that school is the X factor and is likely not to be in session. I don't think that, from our point of view, that doesn't slow down or stop the work on this project. I think that there's been some community conversation about, well, if school is not in session, what's the value of this project if we're not getting that after data? And I think, we don't know what's going to happen in January or February, but we want to be prepared for the eventual reopening of school and the reestablishing of normal traffic patterns whenever that happens. So, we're scheduled and our permit is going to be for a 6-month project, but there's nothing in that permit that would preclude us from asking for an extension. And we've already had those conversations with Caltrans. We will, sort of approach that when we need to. So halfway through the project, then we'll go to Caltrans and say, okay, here's how the project's going. Are we going to extend it? And what is the process for that extension? So I feel like you can all go back to other folks, and if there's questions about that, that's the answer. Is we're going to set this thing up, and hopefully school will be back in session sooner rather than later, and then traffic patterns will be back to where they should be, a normal pattern, and then the demonstration will be on, and we can always ask for an extension later on. Delaying doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we just want to get the thing in the ground now so that we are prepared for that eventuality. School will come back into session at some point in the near future. So we just want to be prepped for that. I'm showing here the budget just so that you all see where we're at. Usually when we do these projects, we work off of a Google document like this. Once we establish the date for the demonstration project, and we've kind of given this information to you during other presentations, but this is the actual document that we're working from. So once we get the date, we're going to use this document more and more to guide these conversations. We'll have a punch list. Here you see, initial items that we're working on that are actual action items right now. So it's installing the Numina sensors, thinking about the permit and the final stamp for those drawings in terms of the engineering, and ordering materials. We're basically on hold until Caltrans says, here's your permit, or we reasonably expect in the next 2 weeks you're going to get the permit. We don't have that expectation yet, so we can't order the materials.
And our preference is to have 6 weeks of lead time between establishing the implementation dates and the actual implementation. So we want 6 weeks. Some of these materials are going to be coming from Spain. Like realistically, it shouldn't take more than 4 weeks for a lot of this stuff to be shipped, but 6 weeks is also intentional for making sure that we have enough time to complete the outreach and solicit volunteers and make sure that as many people as possible are aware.
Right. So just running through this budget a little bit for you, we finally got our quotes from vendors, from contractors who are going to help us do the work. Our volunteer corps, you guys and whoever else shows up, we're going to have plenty of things to do because it's such a long corridor, and moving materials around is going to be a big element of this. But we are going to hire a contractor for the striping and for other elements of the project, like drilling the holes. And we're, very, very close to signing the contract with that contractor. But here you can see the way that we divide up our budget. We've got striping as one major category. So this is the paint for the striping. This is the contractor that we're using. and so on. So we've got our planters and our planting, our planter budget, any sort of, additional potential labor that we might need to hire for extra help with the plantings. I think one of the ways that we're going to look to the volunteer corps is for helping with the planting. So maybe actually this is a good place to stop. Kathy, do you want to give an update on the the planting conversations that we've been having?
Yes. John Lamar, are you on the call too? No, I guess he's not. So,
Oops, sorry.
oh, okay.
Showing him, yeah.
Pardon?
It's showing him in the participant list, but maybe he's.
Oh, okay. So John and I have been working on this together. We've kind of broken it up. Several weeks ago, I did a materials takeoff and kind of sent that back to the core group, meaning, Dana and Tony, and several other people. Greg Grant was on that email. And so what we have done is I've contacted a local soil and amendment company about the potential of getting some items donated and or a discount further than a wholesale discount, which we can get anyway. Plan B was Greg Grant had mentioned that the city of Ojai and the public works yard had soil there that we could use. Of course, we'd have to mend it per the specs for the containers, which I did that takeoff already. So John has been checking into that with Greg, so I'm hoping he can report on that. That'll dictate whether we get the soil for the planters completely from a vendor, or we're still going to have to get materials to supplement the soil that Greg has. So and maybe I can get that from a vendor as well. So that's kind of in the works. In addition, John contacted a local friend and colleague, horticulturalist, landscape contractor that we both know, who is affiliated with a large public garden. And we're looking to get cuttings of, hopefully it looks like several species of aloe, maybe agave. But that will entail, if that pans out, maybe be a volunteer work party collecting the cuttings and then hopefully taking them back to the public works yard, which John has contacted Greg Grant about, potting them up, getting them kind of rooted and being ready for the project. So with the cut,
when does that have to happen, Kathy?
What's that?
How far in advance does that have to happen?
Well, it needs to happen right now, and that's why I was hoping John was on the call, because he was supposed to get back to me earlier in the week, and I didn't hear back from him. So maybe he'll be able to comment on that. In addition, so the planters are essentially 3 feet long by about a foot wide. So if we had, what we're hoping is about, a 15, 18-inch diameter, nice looking succulent in there. Mm-hmm. We would also have 2 other additional plants. We came up with a list, which I sent in that materials takeoff. I can get the lantana donated, but what I'm trying to do is, and I hope this makes sense, if they donate it, they're not going to deliver it. And essentially we'd have to pick it up, but the wholesale grower has it at their yard down in Los Angeles. So, I mean, somebody has to go down there and pick it up, which is kind of a big hassle. Or what I'm trying to work out is the additional plants, even if we had to purchase them, I'd get them from the same nursery. And then I can, we may have to pay a delivery fee or not, but I'm trying to work that out. But that would tie back into me finding out from you, is there any money for the planting project? So in other words, if I had to buy some of the plants, is there money for that? And or if I had to pay some money for some of the amendments for the potting soil, is there any money for that? So yeah, I'm kind of in this back and forth place right now.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
so we do have some funding here. If you look at this line here, we've allocated $3,500.
Is that still true?
Yeah, okay. yeah, that's still true. And we've also got this $2,000, which is a contingency fee for if we need to rent a truck to go down and pick up those
Okay.
materials.
Okay, I feel better.
I mean, I say we, it's really going to be one of you guys to do it in advance. We could always, we could go pick up, we have to fly into Los Angeles anyway. So if that's something that, we could do the day before, we'll do that and save money. But I think.
Okay, this is good for me to hear. Thank you.
I think once we finally, like Tony had mentioned, we feel in a good place with the contractor for all of the striping and stuff, which allowed us to really see where we were at with the budget. So I think now we're more confident that 3,500 and 2,000 number, we can, use some of that if need be.
Good, and thanks. And I see that you kind of did that takeoff. And once again, the prices that I used on that takeoff were just kind of general unit prices, but I can work on tightening any of that up, and/or I believe on that takeoff, I know I sent it a couple weeks ago and I don't have it open, but I put down, I think, a parentheses next to each item, a possible vendor where we ask for a donation, like locally.
Right.
So that's still all in the works. Okay, but thank you. This really helps me a lot, knowing that if we do have to pay some, we'll have it.
And John unmuted himself, so maybe he wants to chime in now.
Oh yeah, good.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That took a while. I've had trouble with my computer, but okay. So yes, I had a nice meeting with Greg Grant. I think Greg Grant's on the call, or on this meeting, and we met at the yard. And Kathy, I've been meaning to text you and update you, so it's true.
That's
I'm a
okay.
little late in doing that. And so, yeah, Greg Grant and Miguel met with me. We had a great meeting. We have a location in the yard. We have access to water. It's going to be partial shade, so it's pretty much perfect. We have access to soil. So it's pretty much an optimum condition. I just now have to reach out to Lawrence and start to confirm. To answer Anthony's question about timing, getting the plants that we'd like to use into pots, because these are going to be cuttings, the best time to do it, for any scenario that would happen, whether this happened in a month or 6 months, would be to pot them up as soon as possible, which is what the plan is.
Okay. Cool. Souza, what's up?
Oh, well, is John finished? I want to be sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I thought you mentioned that there's new people on the call. Maybe we should clarify that this is temporary for the demonstration project, and that the final project will be trees, correct?
Yes.
And then I'd like, if you could address, there is a claim being made that the trees are going to block the view of pedestrians in the crosswalk, and that the trees, but the landscaping will be done in a way where there's no issues with blocking line of sight, right?
That's correct. I mean, when you do these projects, the engineering review requires there to be what's called a visibility triangle at each intersection that is a clear, visible zone that doesn't allow for any vertical obstructions for people in the crosswalk or for drivers who are making a turn, to address that issue specifically. And also the trees in the rest of the corridor are spaced out at 40 feet on center, which is very, it's wide enough that allows for visibility to the bike lane and to the crosswalk. So our delineators, in addition, are very low to the ground. There's no vertical obstructions that's going to occur at the intersections that are going to make a hazard there.
I'd like to chime in quickly too, keep in mind it was 40 foot between planters. That was an accommodation that the fire department was interested in, make sure that we could park any emergency vehicles between them, or they can transition over to that bike lane for an emergency detour. That was one thing. The second one was on the northbound Maricopa lane from Pyrie to El Roblar. We're working with Ojai Valley Sand District to see what plant type is most appropriate there. There's some concern that the tree roots could, there's a sewer line on that side, so there's some concern that it might, be a problem with the sewer line someday. We have trees obviously all over the city adjacent to sewer lines, but it's not uncommon for tree roots to tap in joints of sewer lines. They have a long-term program where they're lining all their pipelines that eliminates that issue. But anyways, we're working with them, so we may land up with no trees from Hyrie till Roblar northbound. Only it'd be some other kind of vegetation we're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to build off of what Souza emphasized, the planters that we speak of and these plantings are going to be just surface mounted, temporary, just for the demonstration to mimic the placement of planted trees in the permanent project. So the planters that we're using are not going to be a part of the permanent project. They're just to have, to, I guess, simulate what the trees, you know, where they would be in the permanent. So yeah, are there any other updates from, so I just want to be clear, Kathy, this budget takeoff that you gave us that we have in the spreadsheet, so are those like the maximum costs that you were assuming without any donations?
Yeah, so I just priced it out using like a contractor's unit price.
Yeah.
I looked at some websites to get an idea and give us a range, so I feel like it's pretty safe. Sure, it could be a little bit more, but that was assuming, yeah, if we had to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a ballpark.
Yeah, so I think even, I mean, assuming that some of it might get donated, I think that we're in a good place.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then I will say, I'm just going to throw this out to John. We don't have to get into it on this meeting, but John, you and I need to talk further, kind of coordinate, and then probably get back to the core group or the group here, as far as if we need to get volunteers to do the cuttings and or potting things up, etc. Does that work for everybody?
I was just texting you that I'll call you after the meeting.
Okay.
And I'll call Lawrence too. I think that the operations could be that everyone within our core group, that would be enough people, with maybe just a little bit of a heads up to, you know, friends and family. Because it's going to be a pretty easy operation for the agave and the aloe. So I'll touch base with Lawrence. I'll text him right now while the meeting continues.
Okay, and then we'll figure out the soil issues, or not issues, but options, and then we can let you know. You know, if whatever we get donated, we'll keep Dana and Tony abreast of that.
Cool.
Okay,
Thank you guys. This is great. I don't think there's anything else to go over on this budget. Just keeping an eye on this final number. This is our all-in sort of costs for the demonstration. And that includes the planting materials, the paint, the contractors who are helping us do the work. And then one of the things that we've done on this project that we've mentioned it before in as part of our evaluation plan is this contingency fee. So what this means is out of our $140,000 budget, we've allocated 10% just in case we have to make a change during the project. And that means, you know, if we need to move a planter around or remove some paint and move it around, that's what that money will go towards. After you consider that contingency, we're still under budget by $2,600. So we're in a good place right now. And we were just talking to Greg about additional outreach methods, like, you know, a mailer to, you know, to residents so that we can, you know, more formally address some of the information of the project, give them, once we have the dates, put the dates out there, and also just some basic FAQ that get to what Souza has been saying, that this is a temporary test, demonstration of the longer term project, and maybe addressing some of the points that have been sort of some of the misinformation that's out there right now, or lack of information. Okay. Kathy, what were you going to say?
Yeah, just a quick comment, because I know we have new people on the call. I think it would be good just for you to mention that this demonstration project was through a grant where the funding's coming from through SCAG, just so everybody's kind of in the loop.
Sure. So for those of you who are new to the call, this is a temporary demonstration project that is meant to show, using short-term, lower-cost materials, what the long-term lane reallocation project, the ATP project, is going to look like once it's built with permanent materials. That includes, planting street trees and, more permanent materials. We're using planters with, sort of shrubs and aloe plants like Kathy was just describing. The money for this project is not coming from the city. This is a grant-funded project with money coming from the State Department of Transportation, Caltrans, who are our partners on this project. They're also the lead permitting agency on this project. And so that's where this money is coming from, and our consulting fee as well.
I'd like to make a comment and suggestion as well, if I could.
Sure.
And that is with the mailer and also on this call. But if you're going to send out a mailer, to mention that the demonstration project's already been vetted and signed off on by the hospital, by the fire department, by Caltrans, the city. A lot of people are weighing in on it, not knowing that it's already really been thoroughly vetted by these other departments.
That's a good point.
Partnering with you.
Could we have an opportunity to look at any mailings?
Yes.
Or, no, it doesn't have to be here, but by email, can send me a draft. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're happy to do that.
And I would like to give anyone who's new, a few minutes. Could we allocate some time if they have any questions? And I also have another question while Greg Grant's on the call, but nothing urgent. I can wait.
Well, hey, by the way, I'd like to also mention,
sure.
Hi, Susan, is that that mailer, we want to make sure we have a fully transparent approach. I know there's some people who feel like we're, do some kind of behind the scenes thing. So I want to make sure we're all, if we do vet it, if it's not just the city staff and the consultant figuring this out, if we do vet it, it'd be with a whole CAC. It wouldn't be an individual council person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, we'll bring it back to the next CAC. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in the next week. So when we have our next CAC, which basically we want to do this every 2 weeks from here on out, just to keep the momentum going and just so that you see that there's action happening. Also, I mean, you guys are a hands-on group. That's the purpose of this group. So once we have the date, then we will move on the mailer and the last round of marketing and outreach that we're going to do. So there's going to be plenty of time for us to go over that stuff, and we'll do it in this venue.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
that was
Tony, that pretty much covered, because I was gonna just update everyone that we'll probably schedule another CAC in another 2 weeks, and I guess we're just gonna keep it at the same time, because it seems to, I don't know, we don't want to switch it up, I guess, just in the middle of the project. But
right.
I guess so. Yeah, that's really all we had. Does anyone have any questions? Like Susan said, anyone who's new or anyone who came on here just to interface with us to
Sure.
chat.
This is Russell.
Hey, Russell.
Hey guys, sorry I was late. I'm wondering what the implications might be if the school doesn't actually have classes this fall.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the call. We're that's okay. We're going to move forward with implementation, and at some point, school will come back into session, whether that's later in the fall or in the springtime. And our approach will be move forward with implementation of the demonstration, and depending on how that all goes on the performance of the project, go back to Caltrans and request an extension of the 6-month demo, so that it more closely aligns with the school year. Hopefully we'll be back in session by January, And at the very least, even if that doesn't work, if we can't get an extension, which I don't see why they would not give us an extension, but if we cannot get an extension, at the very least, we have a couple of months where the demo is in the ground while school's in session, assuming we're going to have school in the next semester.
And I'd
So
like
how does that
to
interact with
very
the
brief.
deadline?
6 months from now would be if we start in the middle of August, right? 6 months, if I'm doing my math right, would be middle of February. So that still gets us into next semester. So we all hope things will be back to normal, but nobody's putting any money on it, I presume.
Right.
But not us, yeah. So we don't know, and like Tony's saying, we hopefully could extend it at that time as well. So we'll do the best we can to extend it out as far as we can.
So how does that interact with the deadlines at Caltrans? Aren't those things that we should be looking to extend based on all these uncertainties?
Exactly. Yeah, we're all these moving parts are being looked at on a regular basis. There's the ATP grant used to have locked in deadlines. It still has them, but they're making accommodations for COVID impacts, which will allow for extensions if properly justified. So we're looking at doing those kind of things as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anybody else? Otherwise, I'll ask my question.
Wait, 1 second, Souza. Russell, were you going to be able to, you sent us this email yesterday with some interesting comments, and I had responded that I think it would be easier if you did a sketch over an aerial or something. Is that something that you think you can do?
Well, I think that might actually be in the document that I prepared for Nordoff parking. I think I might have included, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I didn't see a message till late last night. But I think the parking lot document for Nordoff does have the pathway for entering campus near the all-staff parking area as opposed to on Pyree. The issue I raised is primarily an issue for school traffic times. The design of the intersection at Pyree is fine for non-school traffic times, but we got to get the kids on campus so they don't end up going through that Pyree driveway. Putting the kids into that Pyree driveway would be sending them on a suicide. I mean, the kids are smart enough to not do that. They'll go across the lawn anyway, but shouldn't we design the things so that it shows them where it's safe to go and give them a decent place to ride across the lawn?
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about, and Paul, you're on the line. Okay, yeah, Paul, Greg, Dana, and I have talked about this particular location, which is, I was going to share my screen, but it's not coming up.
Russell, just to make sure I understand, you're talking about when people come from the development south of Bonds and go basically Carrillo Street. If they go from Carrillo to school, we have that two-way class 4 bike lane, which they can use. And then there's kind of a beaten-in path on the school grounds where they cut from the sidewalk over. But there's actually other accommodations in the design as well. But the reality is they're all going to cut up towards the school across the dirt path area.
Well, the issues that are coming up there, Greg, is that you're talking about taking out the U-turn pocket that's across from the all-staff parking lot that you can see there on the screen. So that means there'll be left turns coming across the two-way bike path. And there's nothing in the paving design to accommodate that, and that adds a huge amount of risk for both the left turn on that driveway and the left turn at Pyree. If there is anybody coming northbound on the two-lane bike lane and the Pyree driveway has people turning left, they're not going to be looking for bicycles going northbound. And that's the case at this location he's got on the screen there. So if you take out that turn pocket, first of all, the U-turn that people need to make to get back to Miners Oaks becomes encumbered.
You're talking about this turn right here?
Yeah, the turn pocket you can see on the right-hand side there. That's where the people who drop off that come from Miners Oaks turn around and go back to Miners Oaks. And there's usually a goodly number of people doing that at any given moment during the school traffic. In fact, that looks like a car that just did it.
Right.
And you know, that location is away from the intersection, so that it's going to minimize interaction with left turns. You know, that's been designed to facilitate hospital access and to facilitate U-turns that don't conflict with the Valley Rio intersection. But it also blocks a left turn into the all-staff parking there. And that left turn would cut across the two-way bicycles and be a high risk, especially if when parents figure out that if they're in a big hurry, they can make that left turn and drop the kids off in the all-staff parking lot, which is not being done now because it's hard to get to. So, you know, it's a very short distance, and then the Pyrie presents the same problem. Without school traffic, it's not a problem, but the left turn onto Pyrie would be chasing bicycles onto campus during school traffic. So, you know, those are two very dangerous spots. And if people try to make a U-turn at Pyrie, they're making a U-turn directly into the two-lane bike path there.
Well, we have no U-turn. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be putting up no U-turn signs in pretty much all the existing left turn pockets because there's not,
And that's,
there will no longer be space to make a U-turn.
yeah, that's per Caltrans. Caltrans is requiring that. But I think what you're talking about, Russell, is something that relates to the permanent plans that we don't have because we're not making any changes to the left turn here.
Right. So if you guys don't have the left turn lanes in place, that means that all of the staff is going to have to go through the parking lot to get to the all staff parking and or to get to the staff parking in the student parking lot too. So that's the concern the school has got. That's why they're asking for left turn lanes, and those left turn lanes are going to compromise the safety of the bicycles.
I think it's true. I think that you're really talking about when you go northbound from the Y towards the school, the staff is going to turn left when that median strip is removed at the hospital. They'll take a left into that staff parking lot. And
Well,
so
the
that'll
staff's
happen.
gonna do that, but what's going to stop the parents from doing that?
Well, I mean, it's a parking lot, it's staff parking, but I guess it's not restricted to staff. Yeah, so they would turn left into there. So there'll be the designated conflict zone, the green striping, and the two-way two-way bike lane, and
That's not on the striping plan at this time.
Well, so, but they can't, currently people heading northbound can't make a left into the staff parking because there is a median.
right.
We're not going to be able to test this with the demonstration.
Right.
The demonstration is not going to test the safety of this or the safety of the Pyrie left turn.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a problem. And the conflict with the U-turn, I mean, that lane there is used for U-turns. The one you see on the right there is used for U-turns. And now you're talking about having left turns meet the U-turns and taking out the protection for the two-way bicycle lane. It's becoming,
I mean,
in the left there,
you know,
the screen where it is, in the left, you can see the place where oh, damn it. Can you go back to that other view? Where you can see where the kids are going on campus now. Maybe not.
That one?
No. Pointing at the campus. That's the U-turn, okay? But on the left of this screen here, if that settles in, you can see where the kids would go on campus. And there's no facility for that. And the way that stands right now, the bicycles are going to be running into the pedestrians and running into that sign, and they need to be able to get across that lawn safely. So I mean, it's the only place they're going to be able to get on campus safely coming up from Valley Rio. So that area needs to be enhanced. Otherwise, the kids are going to stay on the highway, or some of them will. And if they go into the Pyrie intersection during school time, you're talking about, you know, a death trap for the kids. You know, the Pyrie exit will have a full stream of parents in a rush coming out. If you add the left turn lane, which we won't be able to test in the demo, that left turn lane is going to be chasing the kids onto campus. If the kids enter into campus at that Pyrie driveway, they're in the middle of a whole insanity of cars during school traffic. You're a little too far.
Right.
We appreciate that.
That safety issue has not been resolved.
Yeah, Russell, I appreciate that. We'll consider conflict striping in front of that driveway. It's always a balance, right? It's a complete street, so it's everybody. It's pedestrians, bikes, and cars. So we want it to be safe. And I'll talk to the. We have
Greg, you and I both know the priority of the funding sources is active transportation, which means getting kids into school safely.
Right.
You're going to ignore that priority as you have through the 60% design. That's problematic. Okay, this driveway is critical to getting the kids onto campus. It's critical to safe routes. You have not done a single thing to get the kids onto campus safely in that direction at the 60% design. The words need to stop. The design needs to show up with the safety. Okay?
Thanks, Russell. We appreciate your comment.
Well,
you know, Greg, I don't know how many times I got to go over this with you. I presented this to you 4 years ago. And here we are at 60% design, and you're still just talking.
I wonder if we added so I mean, with the two-way bike lane there at the driveway, I think we don't have a conflict zone there currently because technically it's going to be closed.
I'm
Obviously,
talking about the 60% design, Dana. There is nothing there on the 60% design. There's not there's not even a protected barrier for the two-lane bicycle path. It's not specified in the street design on page 3. It's not specified in the concrete design on page 10, and it's not specified in the lane striping specifications on page 47 of the design. There's no protections for bicycles along that two-way street except for a little bit of paint. And that does not a two-way bicycle path make.
Is Paul Crabtree still on the call?
And at 60% design, it's just not good enough. Sorry, guys. This is the life of the kids. This is whether the safety works for getting kids onto campus or not. If it doesn't work, the car's going to keep going. Some kids will ride bicycles, and they'll be running into all these safety hazards, and it will be on the city that's the case.
Well, I can't speak for the 60% plans. I can only speak for what we're doing. And I know we're trying to approximate what that final set is, but since we're not making any edits to this, median, it's hard for us to address part of that. There is, in our plan anyway, physical barriers along this stretch. So
that's great, Tony. I appreciate that.
I feel good about that.
Create a ramp effect in that area right there?
It's going to be too expensive. We can't do the ramp. We wanted to do a ramp at the other end also. And, we're trying to juggle the costs of something that's supposed to be temporary. I think your intuition here about there needing to be a ramp is right on. And I think at the very least, this post needs to be relocated. I'm not sure what that is, but
that's the sign that says staff parking only.
That's a sign. Yeah. Well, but that doesn't have to necessarily be right there anyway.
But also, I thought at some point, Greg, we had discussed trying to time both the ramps to this path, and then there was another Desire Line path on the other side of Church, right? That kids use to cut across. And I thought that there was a chance that the city would be able to actually install ramps to coincide with the demonstration project.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a chance that we're working with the Department of State Architect that oversees school parking lots and any construction on schools. So if they'll approve it, then we'll go ahead and permit it through Caltrans, and then we'll try to get it built.
Okay.
So we have a few steps, not quick, but we'll try.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess, so for the demonstration project design at Pyre, I guess we can consider at the very least additional signage there, because I agree, cars are going to be making lefts from Maricopa into that school entry there. Because I don't think, we were assuming or hoping that there would be kind of circulation within the school parking lot to where people would be entering and exiting you know, at different driveways, right? But that's not something that we are really prescribing.
Right.
So there's still a chance that obviously cars are going to be making a left. So I don't think that saying no left turn is the answer, but maybe there's more that we can do at the Pyrie intersection.
Dana, I'd really encourage you to look at the fact that there's a massive stream of cars coming out of that Pyrie driveway. Most of them turn right. I think some of them try to turn left, but I can't verify that. If the bicyclists are supposed to get on campus by crossing through that stream of traffic, it will not be safe and you'll get no response. So, you know, thank you for your concern on that. I really, really appreciate you guys looking at that closely.
Okay. Thanks.
This is Lynn. I have a question.
Sure.
And I apologize if you've already discussed this. I was wondering if you've taken into consideration a left-hand turn coming out of Valerio and Descanso. Since, you know, it's going to be down to one lane, it's already quite impossible to make a left turn as it is from the neighborhood, having 2 lanes. So I'm just wondering if that has been taken into consideration.
In what way? What do you mean? That it's difficult now to make a left turn?
It's dangerous. It's dangerous now making a left turn, and it's going to be even more dangerous and difficult to make a left turn having it, you know, down to 1 lane.
Well, I mean, actually, the reduction in the lanes, the number of lanes, is going to make it more clear and safer. The more lanes you have, the more dangerous it is.
Well, no, actually, it's easier to get across the street when there's 2 lanes, because then you can see if the car's coming in 1 lane, you know you have the other lane to get to.
You're still going to have that visibility. And in fact, the visibility is going to be improved because you're not.
But there's going to be more cars. There's going to be more cars, though, because there's only 1 lane to use.
There's not more cars. You're going to have the same number of cars. They're just using the 2 lanes instead of the 4.
That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry, I live in the neighborhood, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, that's why we're doing the demonstration. I think you'll see right away once it's built how it functions, and that'll be the moment to really have that gut check. Is this easier or not? From an engineering point of view, it's going to be much simpler to be able to make that left turn, because it'll be cleaner.
I just want to bring that up because I know it's a big concern for the neighborhood, and you know, having it down to 1 lane just seems like you're taking away, you know, an option. So.
And I want to comment on that quickly too, because my wife and I were talking about this. We live on Creek Road, and I'm sure we've all driven Creek Road, and you go down and try to get onto Route 33 down by Casita Springs. And we always talk about when you look to the left, there's 2 lanes coming up from Casita Springs, and it's very hard to judge those 2 lanes because cars block each other. A lot of times one is accelerating past the other car. The 2 lane is hard to judge. When you look to the right, a single lane is very easy to judge. You see cars, and there's a gap, you make the move. But the common discussion we've all had is when you leave Valerio, you've got 4 lanes to make an assessment on. Am I going to be able to make a move? Not to make that left turn too. So now you've down to 2 lanes, and you're going to have a much clearer, simpler choice on when you can make that move. And as well, I mean, the big thing is pedestrians, the safety across the 4 lanes. It's 5 in that location. Extremely dangerous, but when you're down to 2, it's easier for a car to judge it as well. I think, as you know, a driver over the weekend, it was a Monday, hit the RRFB post out in the middle of the median. The guy hit the median with the flashing beacon on it and took it out. And luckily, he left his bumper there with a license plate on it, so it was too smart. It was a hit and run. So very, very unusual. But, you know, I think presumably intoxicated or something else. How would you hit that post, do it, and run for it? I'm not quite sure. But how do you judge that when you're trying to walk across the street, 4 lanes? And, you know, if you make it easier for the car to see All right, we've got a highlighted crosswalk. We know where it is. It's, you know, curb extensions with flashing beacons on. It makes it easier for the car. It slows the traffic down. There's no passing lane. And we'll end up with just safer conditions for everybody. For coming out of side streets, driving on street, pedestrians and everything. That's the whole point.
Well, I understand the safety with the crosswalks and the flashing lights, and I think, you know, that's definitely needed. I'm just looking at it from a different point of view, I guess, where, you know, it just seems more congested with taking 2 lanes away.
I think that'll be, yeah, we're gonna.
And then you also throw in motorcyclists on the weekends as well, so.
I think it'll be important, you know, if everyone here has a concern living, you know, along the corridor and stuff, it's going to be really important that you give us that feedback while the project is live.
Yeah.
So that we make sure, you know, to keep track of, you know, oh, we thought this was going to happen, maybe it won't, maybe it will, and that's just all really, really important information to know, because I guess we have no way of knowing for sure. So yeah, just make sure that you know, if you can submit that feedback or your observations, that will be the most helpful.
Thank you.
Best. Yeah.
Thanks, Lynn.
I have a comment on the heels of what Russell was sharing, because he said something that brought up a consideration for me, and that is the parents that are coming southbound. And you said that Caltrans won't allow for a U-turn. So how do those parents get back to Miners Oaks without turning right on Valerio and then all the traffic going through a neighborhood, coming up the other side and then making a left-hand turn back onto the highway towards El Roblar? How do those parents get?
Yeah, Ray, as I understand it right now, yes, some people have that option for the U-turn. A lot of parents drop off their kids and proceed down to the Y and go to work, or otherwise down to Ojai. And but the parents that need to make that U-turn, the safest thing they can do is pull into the parking lot, drop the kid, and leave from the Pyree.
Which parking lot, Greg?
They would pull into the high school parking lot and proceed over to the Pyree driveway and exit and make a left at that point.
Got it.
I mean, that is not ideal, and it wouldn't be what our recommendation is. It's what Caltrans is requiring, unfortunately. I don't see any way around it. We haven't really pushed back that hard. I mean, initially I said I don't think this is necessary, but I think, Greg, you know, if we think that that's going to cause stress on the rest of the network, that might be one of our mitigation measures that we include in the plan to Caltrans and say, look, one of these, especially at these particular locations, the community needs to be able to do their U-turn movements.
And it would be as simple as just removing the armadillos from the buffer on that other side at Pyree, or I'm sorry, at the U-turn after Pyree.
Yeah, because wouldn't there be a potential for traffic really backing up in the parking lot if they're going through the high school parking lot to then make a left to go back towards El Roblar? It seems like that could really cluster up there. And then you have bikes going through there too.
One of the improvements the school is making is they're making to be a better traffic flow. And the city is working with them. Our traffic consultant is working with them to help smooth traffic through there. So I guess a couple of things we kind of hit a little bit today was that as you come from the Y, a lot of that traffic congestion in front of the school. And let's keep in mind that sometimes the consultants look at us like, seriously, for 12, 13 minutes, you guys have congestion. It's not exactly Manhattan, right? So we're talking 12, 13 minutes for school start and finish. So we always got to keep it in larger perspective. But for that 12, 13 minutes every morning, eliminating that median in front of the hospital will allow a lot of the staff that goes down in U-turns and congested at Church Street right now to make that left directly into the parking lot, and that helps a lot. And I know Russell's bringing up a concern that they'll have to cross the bicycle lane, so there's a consideration there to put into
But when you're talking about that removal of the median, that's for the permanent project, right? Not for this demonstration.
Yeah.
Right.
So during this demonstration, those parents that normally make a U-turn and won't be able to, they're going to need to go through the school parking lot and then back out. And then is the school in the city going to be striping and doing things there in the school parking lot as part of the demonstration project?
The demonstration will have most of the features of the permanent project demonstrated, but all the benefits won't be. We can't put everything in there, so like we'll have temporary landscaping as well as everything else. So yeah, some of these improvements, you're right, it'll be better for the permanent, but I think we're confident that during the demonstration, even without all of the full benefits, we're going to see it work well. It is really that 12, 13 minutes. It's a pinch zone. It's almost hard to demonstrate to consultants when they come and visit. Okay, this is the problem. And they say, when is it going to be happening? Well, that's it right now. That's it. So, you know, for the left-hand turn at church, you've got to have stacked traffic and you got to have a blockage of some sort of pedestrian things that can actually stack up that left turn, but it's hard to really catch it happen. And so we've got improvements in place for the demonstration that we're confident will work, and then the permanent project will work even better. So it is part of the demonstration will show the majority of it, but not.
And Tony, when you were talking about case for mitigation on that U-turn, were you speaking of the demonstration or the permanent project?
I mean, the demonstration, but it would inform what the permanent project, how the permanent project also is designed. That's the purpose. The purpose of the demo is to help inform any potential edits to that final ATP project. So I mean, I'm talking about our demonstration, and then that can also help inform the final.
And do you feel there is a case, or that would be something you'd want to make a case for? And if so, would that delay the demonstration project?
No. I mean, I don't think we need to make a case for it now. We have to what we've done is in our evaluation plan, which will be a part of our permit, we've said, here are potential locations that may need mitigation during the project. So it's trying to come up with all of the different, potential locations where this is an issue. Like Lynn was just describing, that left turn, which I don't think would be an issue, but that's the sort of analysis that we're doing. So this is one of those. We'll just insert U-turn at Pyrie, U-turn at Bayarillo, and give the mitigation, solution, which in this case is very inexpensive. It's just removing the delineators and allowing for the U-turn.
Yeah. I live in the same neighborhood down Valerio, so I understand that left-hand turn.
Yeah, I think Ray has put his finger on the issue about the people that need to get back to Miners Oaks. And, right, the design that when you take out the medium on the long-term project is a center median that would be a place where people could pull into that median and legally make a U-turn. So you're going to have people from Miners Oaks pulling into the area where they are currently making a U-turn, and you're going to have staff trying to get into that same area and make a left turn. And it's all going to go down in that same 15 to 20-minute time zone twice a day. So that's a real issue. But I'm also a little confused as to why Caltrans would take away the ability to make a U-turn at both the Valerio location and at the church location, where the people coming from the Y are currently making a U-turn at the church location. And there's only a one-way bicycle path there. And that bicycle path is not critical to safe routes. And most of the people that come down southbound will probably go through campus anyway, rather than staying on the freeway. So I think the only thing that actually would block there's a lot of street there to make a U-turn. And I don't understand why Caltrans isn't making that possible, especially if you move the start of the drop-off zone sufficiently far away that the drop-off zone doesn't impact the U-turn. And the same is true at the hospital there. If you just don't have parking or trees or landscaping,
Right.
where that U-turn is going down, I don't
Yeah.
see why a single bicycle path, and you could take it straight down to an unprotected bicycle path if it makes it work, because that would still be safer than having people turn left off a two-way bicycle.
Well, let's take that back to them. I mean, I'm willing to push back on it.
I think it was.
I don't want it to slow down the permit acquisition, but
It was mostly, yeah, I think they said no U-turns because they didn't think there was enough room
right.
for, you know, for people to make the U-turn without going into the bike lane buffer, which then just made them nervous that they were getting too close, that U-turning cars would be getting too close to the bike lane. And
well, bear in mind that is also the driveway area with, in front of the hospital there. That U-turn happens right at the driveway, and that's why it's there. So, you know, if the choice is between slightly less protection against the U-turn versus full left turns across the two-way bike lane, which is basically the choice. The school is asking for those left turns because of the elimination of the U-turns. If you keep the U-turns in place, then the school doesn't need the left turns, and you don't have people turning left across bicycle paths. Turning left across even a single bike path is more of a problem, but you know, putting people in a position where they're going to make illegal U-turns at Pyree, which will put them directly heading towards two-way bicycles, it's like, whoa. And across a driveway with a two-way bike path, turning left across that is just dangerous. So if we can retain the U-turn at Church and retain the U-turn in front of Pyree, we won't need the left turns.
Right. Okay. We will push back and see, you know, what kind of response we get. I think that a lot of this is reasonable, and we'll just see. They've been very flexible. That was one of their first comments, so we'll just have that conversation with them and let you know where we land next time we talk.
I'd like to make a comment real quick.
Sure, John.
Greg, I wanted to address something that I'm seeing in the flyer that's come from the opposition. And they made the comment that the city has already spent $140,000 of taxpayer money. I think that's accurate, but aren't you trying to recover that money from the County Transportation Association?
The $140,000 was initial money spent to secure the grants and come up with the concept design. So that money was city money. I think we said 100, if it was 130 or 140, I'm not sure the exact amount of the cut. And we should keep in mind that we have approximately $3 million in grant monies secured. So the leveraging is something like a 3% match, which is extremely low. I mean, typically you've got to come up with somewhere at like a 10 to 50% match for any kind of grant program. So as far as leverage goes, it doesn't get any better, but it's true that money was secured, was spent up front with city money, but otherwise, yeah, we're exceeding $3 million.
But aren't we asking for those funds back, reimbursement by the county?
Some of the money was being considered in one of the new grant programs we have for reimbursement, but there's no surety in that.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
May I comment? I'm going to find some data that shows when a city invests in bicycle infrastructure, how it pays for itself in multiple ways, especially in a tourist, because we have a tourist-based economy. So it's good. It's good for the tourists, and for the residents, it improves their property value, because when people buy a house, they love to live, most people, where they have access to safe bike lanes. So there's multiple financial benefits to this investment. And I'll try to come up with some figures on that.
Okay.
And then while I'm talking,
sure.
Let's not lose sight of the goal. The goal is to reduce the traffic of people dropping off their kids every morning. Now, some of them are on their way to work, and it's, they can drop off their child or whatever. But many are making a special trip, and they would love to not be the chauffeur for an able-bodied teenager. So if we work out these glitches, these are young people that are likely going to be riding their bicycles on college campuses where it's considered cool and normal, and we can create that kind of culture on a high school campus so that all of these kids now being chauffeured in the morning, you know, we can reduce, the goal is to reduce that traffic congestion in the morning.
Susie, you're bringing up a great point that ideally the frontage of that high school wouldn't be, you know, a half a mile 4-lane highway, the only section in the Ojai Valley, except for a small section of Oakview that people are trying to remove as well. It would make the whole high school more attractive and have a more pleasant aesthetic in a safer condition. So maybe kids would want to go there, because right now there's roughly half the number of kids attending that school as 20 years ago. It's an incredibly steep downward curve, which is creating a financial crisis at the high school as well, right? So maybe it would reverse it and people would find that as an attractive place to send their kids to school, and they might actually try to pull the trend back a little bit. That's hopeful, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's all part of the bigger picture for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. This was a great, I learned a lot. Most of my questions were answered already.
Cool.
So, and yeah, thank you everyone. It was great.
All right. Any other questions? I see a couple of names I don't recognize. If you guys have any questions, Cindy, Tina. I think Tina's been on our calls before.
Yeah, I think Adam.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, it's Cindy Cantle, and I just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing. It's a great project, and through my work in Supervisor Bennett's office, you know, we're working on a similar project in Oakview that Greg was just mentioning, and you know, and we hope to be able to do a demonstration project there too. So, you know, very supportive of what you're doing, and you know, and this has been a great process. So thank you, and you know, appreciate all the information. And
Sure.
I'm sorry I was late. I had a different phone conference that I had to be on.
No worries. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted everybody to feel like they could comment, but happy to answer
an interesting comment that Cindy has, and thanks for chiming in, Cindy, because yeah, there's 2 sections of 4-lane highway in the whole Ojai Valley. I can only imagine if there was a private development or other development proposed in the valley that said, hey, why don't we take the 4-lane section in front of El Roblar or downtown Ojai, and why don't we make it a 4-lane highway to get higher capacity for this half a mile stretch?
Right.
It goes back to the same capacity after that. I don't know if you'd be hung or what, I mean, these days, but it would be quasi-violent, you know, either mentally or physically, I don't know, but it would be, so really going back to this mistake that was made back in the early 60s when Caltrans was proposing putting a 4-lane highway from Santa Paula through Ojai all the way to Carpinteria, 4-lane highway the whole way. They were building 4-lane highways everywhere across the nation. A few places pushed back, and Ojai pushed back, right? The citizens to preserve the Ojai, the CPO, pushed back with huge, hundreds of people attending these meetings, pushing back on Caltrans' plan to put a 4-lane highway from Ventura up to Ojai and then spreading to Carpinteria and Santa Paula. That was when that stuff was getting pushed through like mad, and it was stopped. And they did, I think, in many ways, I think we can all agree they preserved the Ojai, because Ojai with 4-lane highways up here, that's the only thing that's allowed Ojai Valley to push back on development and not have large subdivisions occur throughout the valley, is because we don't have the capacity on the highway. They call it the Edison Curve down below Casitas, where it goes from 4 lanes down to 2. So luckily that's the case. It's not 4-lane highways everywhere, and this is an old mistake. And the benefit is it's hard to come up with a good benefit, and you can speed for, you know, 0.6 miles in Ojai by passing people if you want. Otherwise, you got to go back to 2 lanes for tens of miles in all directions. So it's an interesting reason that we might see pushback on it. It's hard to come up with a reason.
Right.
It's Cindy again, Greg, and thank you. That's so true. I also want to mention, going to Susan's point, that the county, you know, has committed $6 million in bike lane improvements, and some of those are in the Ojai Valley. You know, the Rice Road bike lane the Santa Ana Boulevard bike lanes and Casitas Vista Road, and those all kind of link. You know, if you're going to go to, you know, down this way to El Roblar, and then you can take Rice Road, and then, you know, ride Santa Ana. I mean, it's all part of this effort to get people on their bikes, and in a tourism-based economy, that is a sustainable type of tourism. And, you know, I think, as you know, Supervisor Bennett's really been, you know, promoting that. We have an active initiative or our Cycle California Coast. So, so this fits into that too, that more county-wide investment in bicycle infrastructure.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was a really important. Oh, can you hear me?
You're on.
I keep muting because of my dogs. But yes, I keep emphasizing to people that this is part of a valley-wide network, and it's a critical part because it's the link between Ojai and Miners Oaks, and it's part of a network of safe routes to school. So I think once people see the whole picture, and that, because otherwise, you know, they have expressed fear that this is going to push more traffic on residential streets. And I say that and we're going to be looking at all of that. I would assure people that we're going to look at any impact on other streets, and you know, we're going to deal with all those issues during the demonstration project.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you, Souza, and everyone, all your comments. It was a really robust conversation, and you know, like I said, we're going to have these meetings now every 2 weeks until we get this project in the ground. So there's going to be plenty more time to talk, and we're still refining the designs and working on the permit. So hopefully we'll have a more detailed, something concrete for you at the next meeting in terms of dates. But so keep your fingers crossed on that. And I think that's it from our end. Greg, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, thanks.
Cool.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana and Anthony.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.